What it do, baby boo? It is 6:04 p.m. January 12th, 2024. It is Friday. Hold on one second. It's a little bit dark out, as you can see. I'm kind of actually rushing this a bit just to kind of have some type of light. So there's some type of visual, but let's get right into it, shall we? Bro, this week it's crazy because this week feels like it's been like the last time I did this was months ago. That's how different and crazy things have been at least in my eyes. I'm trying to pocket this water and it's not going. So first and foremost, I've been sticking to the script. You know, going 5 for 5 every day except for Sunday, where I only post and I don't do any sets. It's a recovery day. Saturday, I did my 1 hour cardio. I do remember I took it very light though this week. And then also, I believe it was Wednesday, but there was one day that I took it very easy and I only posted 3 clips and I didn't do any sets at all. But I have an explanation for that because I was very sore from a about 6 hour walk that I took a couple days before. So I haven't been waking up at 6 a.m. because honestly, what's been happening is I've been I've been up at 6 o'clock in the morning because I've been falling asleep at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's been really wonky. What I'm trying to do is not have, and it's happened before, not lose a day because of me staying up for mad long and not like keeping in track with the days. So because it's supposed to be a daily streak, so if I stay up for 24 hours and I treat that as one day, it doesn't work. So that's my primary concern with that. But it's not a huge deal otherwise because it's more of like a preference thing. But I've always been kind of more of a night person, and what's kind of happening is when I'm up late, I just kind of naturally get into this flow of like wanting to research things and learn and like some type of productivity kind of kicks in naturally. Whereas like if I wake up at 6, it's kind of like I'm dragging ass anyway, so I don't know how exactly to feel about it. But the most important thing is that I do what I'm supposed to do every day, and that I do it, and that I have a schedule that's that coincides with the regular days and weeks, so that I don't do less, or I guess more, but most importantly less than I'm expecting to do. I started eating fruit, and that's been great. I've been taking my vitamins and doing apple cider vinegar and all that good jazz. So I'm trying. There's one huge thing that I really want to say. I received my tooth band thing, and it works. Like I tried it once. I haven't been using it every day, but literally in that one day that I wore it, I could see it kind of closing the gap. So it's like, if it's gonna happen that fast, I don't even have to wear it every day. And I'm just glad that it kind of works. I know that I could basically, if I'm feeling weird about it, like I am now, I'll wear it. I'm wearing it now. You can't really see it, but so I got that. I've been playing more StarCraft, so I and I've incorporated scouting fully now. So I haven't like a it's weird because it's like a lot of convoluted, complicated things to kind of be able to do everything at the beginning. At least for me, when you're used to doing less, when you're just like cutting corners and using your APM, being frugal and economical with your APM, and in doing so, in so doing, basically cutting corners, and one of those corners being scouting. And I've been playing now for 2 years, I think, maybe more. And so I have some habits. I've tried to kind of mitigate that, but this one in particular is one of the major ones because I never scouted, and doing so has really messed my early game up to the point where I can't. My level goes down drastically, and that's pretty much what happened. I went down into the doldrums of like low plat or mid plat, whatever. It just feels really bad. Like I could beat these players if I don't scout, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna scout, and I'm gonna set my camera hotkeys, and these are habits that are going to pay off in the long run, even though there's the growing pains of actually incorporating it initially. And I continued practicing with my the multitask trainer, and that's really helping. The reason why that's helping is because I think the primary thing that it does is it makes it I'm starting to use the different buttons, different hotkeys. It's forcing me to add hotkeys to my repertoire, basically. So instead of just using, I don't know how many I was using before, 4 or 5 of them, now I'm using I can use up to 8. So, and what I keep doing is whenever I'm adding a new, well, basically there's a probe you have to control, basically, and you don't want it to be on one of the main hotkeys because you want to use your hotkeys for what actually matters in the game. So I have 2 army hotkeys and maybe a drop defense hotkey, and then the probe. But I had to work my way up to that. The only way that I started using the second army hotkey was because of the multitask trainer, and then there's then it went to the drop hotkey, and then now it's on another hotkey. So it's increasing the amount of things that I can hotkey now in the actual games, and even while doing the multitask trainer. Sometimes you get completely flustered and it just all goes to shit. So there's that. It's a lot to manage, but I have once again done my overall best on the multitask trainer. I think it was yesterday, and increasingly my defense is getting better. That's the kind of style I want to play. I want to play the defensive control Protoss that is super scary late game. That's the kind of game I'd like to get good at now, because I feel like I could definitely do early game shit because of what I was doing with Terran to get to Diamond in the first place. So I just have to know the build and then be crisp about it. And I feel like if you could be crisp through a 10 or 15 minute game, you could be crisp for the first 5 minutes. So whatever. That's just kind of the kind of style I've been working on. And that's kind of why I'm really kind of refraining from playing Terran, because it's weird because there's just so many different things you have to know, and it throws you off. Even when I'm playing Terran, I find myself wanting to chrono boost a freaking barracks. It's you can't do that. So those kind of brain farts happen to me when I'm playing Protoss because I played Terran, and I don't want to do that to myself. So, if anything, I probably need to be playing Zerg to kind of work on my camera hotkeys, because that's one of the things I don't do that well. And also, sometimes I'm still losing, especially to Terrans, with drops, man. They just drop you over here, they drop over here. As soon as you get there with your F2'd army, then they drop somewhere else. So it's really tough with that, but I'm working on it. So yeah, but I've been playing a little bit more just because I don't know exactly. It's just kind of, it's just been like, it's like the thing that I can do that I don't feel bad about doing, but it's like the most relaxed thing that I can do. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and watch like random YouTube shit, but I can play StarCraft and not feel that bad about it. So yeah, that's been happening. My APM is like increasing like incredibly. I feel like I would be happy if I had like 100 APM in the past or 110 APM, but all of a sudden since I've been doing this, my APM has gotten like to almost 160, and it's like it's like always at 150 now, you know, around there, and that feels really good to see on the scoreboard whenever I look at it. It's like, wow, I'm playing at 150 APM. What's crazy though is that the people at my level are also, it feels like everybody's APM went up, is what it feels like. But mine definitely went up, and that's amazing. And also I got back to my level. So I'm back to like, you know, low diamond with the scouting and with the camera hotkeys, which makes me more solid in the early game. So now there's more of a defensive posture, and I can kind of switch into oh, it's dark now. I can kind of, now it's more of like game management and also defensive, like defending, not F2ing when defending, basically. And then knowing what to do in certain situations. My control is actually relatively good. But there's certain things with the main army, making sure that you don't get pulled out of place. There's base trade scenarios that are tough too. Like when I get into base trade scenarios, I don't know what exactly to do. So all those things kind of are things to work on. But it's really just a matter of, you know, warming up with the multitask trainer and then going into the games and just playing with no distractions and you know, everything like that. So I'm not even gonna be able to see my list. I'm trying to make sure I get all the little stuff out of the way. That day that I took off, by the way, just so happened to be on a new moon, which is apparently a good day to kind of relax. So I really felt that. Okay, so I mentioned, and that day that I took off, right? I mentioned that there was, I went for a long walk, okay? I'm kind of going backwards a little bit, because once I start talking about the main thing, I'm going to go off on a tangent. So there was one day that I decided I wasn't going to work out because I was very, very sore, because I went on a 6-hour walk to go kind of wrap my head around the situation that I found myself in, okay? I went on a walk, and I was just doing a voice note, talking to myself, and I walked the furthest I've ever walked. I was going far and near in my area, and I was just talking to myself about, you know, theory crafting about next moves and potentially what I could do, what the focus is, and I think that was the best play. Sometimes I just need to think. So I ended up taking off one day and saying, this is going to be that's going to count for cardio this week, basically. I was like limping. I couldn't even really step on my foot. So I still did my post and everything. I don't know if I did my post that day. I think that was the day I did the 3-day thing. 3 posts. Then the next day, I still felt like crap. I woke up and I felt like congested. I had a huge headache. I was in pain. I've had like a crick in my neck because I slept wrong one time. And I was like, man, I'm gonna have to break this streak, or I'm gonna have, because like I already used this is my cardio day excuse, even though the day after I did it, after my 6-hour walk, I I actually did my like my workout for that day, but I just didn't do legs basically. So the day after that, it just didn't get any better. So I was like, I'm just gonna count this as cardio now. I'm not. It was a combination of feeling like shit entirely and also the pain in my legs. So I was like, I already used this excuse. So then that day, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do everything except the legs. Or actually, I actually did do legs. I just didn't do anything with my calf or my ankle, right? And I felt so much better after my first set. I felt, I was like, all right, everything's going good. But I did my first session, and I feel like I've been kind of neglecting that a lot. I've just been doing it kind of as I feel like doing it, which is completely fine. But damn, this is a lot. I'm probably just gonna briefly walk on this road, not be on here for too long. It's kind of a rush hour and it's Friday. But I did my session, right? I did one session, and literally immediately after that, I was able to do things with my ankle. I just tried it and it worked. And another thing is too, when I do a session and I work out right afterwards, I'll accidentally do more reps than I'm supposed to. So the point being, that shit is magical. That shit is magical. This is going well. That shit is magical, right? Sometimes and I haven't been doing it lately because I feel very worked up because I have a lot of stuff on my mind. But I haven't been deliberately smiling much either. Sometimes I'll just lay there and deliberately smile for an hour, doing really nothing, just chilling. And that is I can get to a similar place, a similar kind of feeling to how I feel during and after a session. It just takes a little bit longer. When I'm doing a session, it kind of right away I go where I want to go, and then it's hard to sustain. But if I do deliberate smiling meditation kind of thing, then it goes. There's a slow build up, but then once I get to where I get to a place very close to a buzz that I feel that's very similar to when I do one of those sessions. So and this kind of connects to the whole what I was talking about. I've been trying to kind of communicate last week and then on Christmas, where I was talking about not missing anything spiritually, right? And only really needing to resolve, make my financial situation a little bit better, and that'll be, that basically. What I'm basically saying is, a better way to put it, I feel, is that after experiencing life for my 28 years or whatever, and actually experimenting with brain chemistry, because I know that is the source of all of our emotions and feelings and whatnot. And learning about, smiling, sex, relationships, things of that nature, and then, experimenting and having my own case study in my own life, is that it's kind of like, is that basically the emotions you're gonna feel, the highs and the lows are the same. There is no higher emotion. There is no lower emotion. You go from basically wanting to die, wanting to off yourself. That's like the lowest of lows, right? So frustrated, you're just uncomfortable and frustrated, and nothing's going right, to pretty much on fire slash a fucking orgasm. And I don't mean necessarily a physical one, but like the peak experience. And that can happen in a multitude of different ways, and it can happen every day, moment to moment. It can change, and that kind of connects to what I'm talking about with this whole session thing. I go from feeling like crap. I'm not saying that I'm on like the lowest of lows, but you know, and then in a moment's notice, basically, I'm in a what feels like a peak experience, So, that being said, you just don't, if you know kind of your range from experience or what you can feel, then you can know not to, try to push it, basically. If you're drinking, for instance, there's only so drunk you can get before you black out. That's basically the concept. Yeah, it's almost like you can only get so happy before you get manic. That's just how it is, and it's a little bit depressing, but also it's true. So it's not it's not like it just is what it is. So I guess in theory you'd be trying to spend the majority of your time. There's things I haven't tried, like heroin, things like that. I don't know how that feels, but they nod off. So I imagine it's similar to blacking out. And on the spectrum on both ends are disappearing, because you have like blacking out slash like an orgasm or whatever. It ends. It can't go further. And then lower is death by killing yourself, or dying just because of loneliness or whatever it is that happens. So same thing with going up. You just black out, or it ends. It caps. You can only go so hard until you become overwhelmed, basically. And I learned that from doing my sessions. So, well, not from. It's a combination of that and other things, but that, and then learning, like when I actually seek spiritual guidance from church, or from Jesus, or enlightened people that are around today. It's like, nope, you've got it. That's exactly what it is. You know what I'm saying? You've got to grasp. You're calibrated and tuned in enough to operate and know what's going on. So that's kind of what I was getting at, and knowing that is very empowering. Because it's kind of my nature as the oldest sibling. I don't know if it's an first sibling thing or firstborn thing or what, but for me it's like I'm the boundary tester. That's just what it is. So I kind of have an idea from learning the hard way, basically, and then applying that to a bunch of other spiritual concepts and whatnot, to arrive at, okay, I know the highs and the lows here, and I can control it. You know what I mean? I certainly can control going up. I don't know, like the negative ones, I'd like to say are pretty much a consequence, or they it's like when I'm not paying enough attention, that stuff happens sometimes, where I don't manage my emotions, and I feel negative, and maybe I think negative thoughts and things like that. So I know what that feels like, and I know when it's happening, how to correct it, basically. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me look at this list one time. Okay. All right. Okay. So, what's the most important thing that happened this week, basically? I think it might have been Saturday or Sunday night. I don't remember exactly, but wait, just real quick. So me saying that I can correct if I'm feeling down and go to and all the way to the peak experience, to the exact peak experience, and sustain that for however long I need to, is the empowering part. If you're not aware enough to know that you control that, you could be manipulated, and you can, search for it in all the wrong places, and just be at the whims of just all types of things that aren't yourself, basically. And that's one of the first maxims. One of the first things about spirituality is that you control your own happiness. That's one of the things that, I feel like any successful person has to understand, is that you control your own happiness. You control your own success. So, that kind of led to the fact I can actually, and it's like, no, and it's like scientific, you know what I'm saying? Like the brain chemicals that you feel during, being in love, blah, 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 and just being actualized are there's things you can do to actually get yourself those brain chemicals naturally. So also, like I said before, I would use drugs to kind of do that before. Weed, booze, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do that. You can literally do it yourself. It's not exactly the same feeling, but it's the good part. It's the part that you actually want. The actually being sloppy and things of that nature. That doesn't necessarily come, but it does feel similar sometimes. When you're really turned up, it does kind of feel like being drunk. And I experienced that recently, actually, prior to the 6-hour walk, because of what I'm about to talk about. So, and also just when I do the deliberate smiling thing, sometimes you're so loopy and so airy that your interactions become silly, similar to when you're high or drunk, too. So, and that's very empowering, because then you don't have to. It's not like I'm doing this because I want to. It's like, no, I'm doing this. Doing this is extra. Doing this is because, it's gonna make life easier for me to do the being happier thing. That's it. It's not like this is the end all be all. So it might be a little bit confusing, but and it goes back to another thing too, is that you control your own happiness. Also, it goes the spirit and then the manifestation, not the object and then the feeling. It's not like, oh, I have this thing and I feel good. No, you feel good, you manifest positive things. That's like the way that I live. And also, it's better to do it that way, because even if you don't have the thing, even if you don't manifest the thing that you want, you already feel good anyway. So, but if you do get the thing, sometimes it doesn't make you feel good. And that happens all the time. So, moving on. I just want to, because I know once I start talking about this, it's going to be over with. All right. So, the big main thing that happened this week is I went ahead and I keep wanting to go back to this. Also, you'll find that good things will happen to you if you focus on tuning yourself to a higher frequency, basically. And doing that is they talk about it in trans surfing too. It's like you're moving into different dimensions. There's many dimensions. I don't want to sound crazy, but every possible outcome or universe exists, and basically by changing frequency, you're changing your reality by moving. It's literally like a radio dial. Every 0.01 maneuver changes the universe you're in, and you can turn it up or turn it down, and that is going to dictate the quality of your experience and the kind of things you experience. So I know from my own personal experience that if I do the negative shit, and it's weird, and if you put the power outside of you, it's very crazy. You're just reacting to what's going on, and again, you're at the whims. It's like a ping pong game. Whereas if you're deliberately doing something inside of yourself to tune yourself to what you want, or just tune yourself to being happier, then the fucking angels sing, the birds are chirping, the sun is shining, and opportunities, everything goes your way, blah, blah, blah. And it's in a moment's notice, pretty much. So, finally, one night I could not sleep. I had a conversation. This might have been Friday. It was like I had a conversation with my credit repair company. I didn't like how the conversation was going. I did not feel, they took $20 off the bill, but I was looking up stuff and I was like, this doesn't feel right. I don't know what they're talking about. They're not gonna sue. They're never gonna sue. I don't know what they're sending. They're not really communicating with me about what they're doing. And it just doesn't feel good. And I read about people that have gone with the same company and just gave them money for 6 months and then didn't see any results. And it's like, bro, you paid them $600-700 and they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything at all. So it's like, well, at this point something should have happened. And I was very upset. Right? I was like, well, I'm gonna let it rock. You feel me? We're just gonna let it rock, and then I guess we'll pivot. But I was in a very low, feeling at that moment because everything was gonna be slow. And I rewatched the vlog from last week or whatever, and I could see how, it's just everything was gonna be taking longer. So anyway.